Let us discuss the next question. This is from the year 2014. Which of the following are the discretionary powers given to the governor of a particular state? The question is primarily focusing on the discretionary powers of the governor. Statement number 1. Sending a report to the President of India for imposing the President's rule. If you recall the provisions of the President's rule, the President will impose the President's rule or the constitutional emergency or state emergency in a particular state if the President thinks that the provisions of the Constitution are not being followed in that state, or in other words, the governance of the state is not as per the provisions of the Constitution. Here, the President's decision can be based on the report of the governor, or it may not be based on the report of the governor also. But the governor in this case has a discretionary power when it comes to sending a report to the President for imposing the President's rule. If he thinks that the particular state missionary it's not working as per the provisions of the Constitution, he will write a report to the President asking him to impose the President's rule in that particular state. So this is a discretionary power of the governor. So this is correct. Appointing the ministers. When it comes to appointing the Chief Minister and the Council of Ministers, the governor doesn't have a discretionary power. The words mentioned that the governor shall appoint. So because there is a shall, there is an obligation on the governor. So this is not a discretionary power. The obligation is there on the governor. Hence this will be incorrect. Reserving certain bills passed by the state legislature for the consideration of the President of India. Again, this is also a discretionary power of the governor. If the governor thinks a particular bill has to be got the President of the accent of the President, he will reserve it for the accent of the President. Again, this is a discretionary power. Statement number 4. Making the rules to conduct the business of the state government. In this case, when it comes to the rules of managing the state government, the governor is mandated. He is obligated again. The word used is shall. So the governor shall makes rules for the conduct of the business of the state. So again here, because the word shall is mentioned, it is an obligation. The governor doesn't get any discretionary power here. So this will also be incorrect. Now the correct statements are 1 and 3. So this is wrong. We have 1 and 3 here. So B is the correct answer for this question. Now let us look at the in-depth explanation. When we talk about the discretionary powers of the governor, that is, he has a choice in using or not using these powers. The constitutional discretionary powers are reservation of the bills for the President's consideration. So this was a question in UPSC 2014. Again, recommendations for the President's rule. This is the question of 2014. So clearly we can see here how these two are asked in the 2014 question. So the governor has a constitutional discretion when it comes to reservation of the bills and recommendations of the President rule, and also administration of the adjoining UT, or when it comes to seeking information from the CM regarding the administrative and legislative policies, and also in determining the amount payable to the government of Assam and all that additional provisions. And when it comes to additional discretionary powers, that power to dismiss the Council of Ministers when they cannot prove the confidence of the state in the Legislative Assembly, or the dissolution of the State Legislative Assembly if the Council of Ministers have lost the majority. These are also the additional discretionary powers. Now, why statement 1 is correct? As per the Article 356, the President rule, like I said, is imposed if the President, based on the Governor's report or otherwise, is satisfied that the governance of the state cannot be carried out in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. So that is why this falls under the discretionary power of the governor. The governor may send a report or may not send a report. Again, for the President to impose the rule, it doesn't matter whether the governor has sent a report or otherwise, that is, he has not sent a report. Statement 2 was incorrect because the Chief Minister shall be appointed by the governor and the other ministers shall be appointed by the governor on the aid and advice of the Chief Ministers, and the minister shall hold the office during the pleasure of the governor. So here, because the word shall is there, it becomes obligation on the governor. And statement 3 is correct because in Article 200 specifically, the governor of a state can exercise the legislative power to reserve a bill for President's consideration. So here observe the word can. So here he has a choice. He can or he may not. And statement 4 is incorrect again, because Article 166 talks about the conduct of business of the government of a state. And Article 166 clause 3 says the governor shall make rules for the convenient transaction of the business of the state and for allocation of ministries among different ministers. So because the words shall are used when it comes to appointing the ministers and making the rules, they are not discretionary powers, they are obligations on him. So hence they both are wrong. Option 1 and 3 will be the discretionary powers. So B is the correct answer. Let us discuss the next question. This is from 2015. Consider the following statements. Number 1. The Legislative Council of a state in India can be larger in size than half of the Legislative Assembly of that particular state. Statement 2. The governor of a state nominates the chairman of the Legislative Council of that particular state. Which of the following statements are correct? If you look at statement number 1, it says that the strength of the Legislative Council can be larger than half is 1 by 2 of the Legislative Assembly of that particular state. But as per the provisions of the Constitution, the maximum strength of the Legislative Council of a particular state, it cannot be more than 1/3 of the strength of the Legislative Assembly of that particular state. So it's not more, it can be larger than 1/2. It cannot be more than 1/3 of the total strength of the Legislative Assembly of that particular state. So this statement is incorrect. Statement 2 says the governor of a state nominates the chairman of the Legislative Council of that particular state. Here the keyword is nominate. The governor of the state doesn't nominate the chairman of the Legislative Council of a particular state. The chairman, the presiding officer of the Legislative Council for a particular state, will be elected among the members of that particular council. So the governor doesn't nominate the chairman will be elected from amongst its members. So this statement is also incorrect. Now question is asking us which of the following statements are correct. Since both the statements are incorrect, answer will be neither 1 nor 2, D. Now let us look at the in-depth provisions. Article 171 in the Constitution deals with the composition of the Legislative Council. If you look at the Bare Act now, the Article 171 clause 1 clearly says the total number of the members in the Legislative Council of a state having such a council shall not exceed 1/3 of the total number of the members in the Legislative Assembly. So basically what it means is the maximum strength can be 1/3. It cannot be more than the 1/3 of the total strength of the Legislative Assembly of that particular state. So the statement, because it said it can be more than 1/2, that will be incorrect. It cannot be more than 1/3. Statement, the clause to that also says that provided that the total number of members in the Legislative Council of a state shall in no case be less than 40. So this is the minimum strength which is being prescribed by the Constitution. So what it is saying here, the minimum strength should be 40. In no case it can go less than 40. That means the minimum strength has to be 40 members. So if you can observe this, the implication that is the Constitution has fixed the maximum strength and the minimum strength, but the actual strength will be fixed by the Parliament. That is said in clause 2. Until Parliament by may law provide, the composition of the Legislative Council shall be as provided in the clause 3, and it gives the composition, the detailed composition in clause 3. To recap, the maximum strength and minimum strength is prescribed in the Constitution, and the actual strength will be prescribed by the Parliament. Coming to statement number 2, the chairman of the State Legislative Council will be elected amongst the members of that particular house, and he or she will not be nominated by the governor. Hence, the correct answer is D, neither 1 nor 2.